Hold me up, oh tiny dancer. Hold me up, oh tiny dancer. Are you being led? And it's the way. And at the sea, turning blue. Mm-hmm. Na 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 na. La 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 la. Oh shit. I guess I'm live on YouTube, I'm live on LinkedIn. I've sent people messages on WhatsApp. Hopefully some people should start joining in very soon. Then we will begin. Why am I not able to go live on LinkedIn? Why are you unable to connect, man? Come on. Why is LinkedIn such a pain in the ass? Good morning, Nishant. Happy to be back here after a while. Good morning, Mr. Raj. How are you doing? It's been a very long time. I'm just figuring out a way to connect to this LinkedIn thing. I don't know why it's not going live yet. Just give me a second. How you doing? What's up? Should we begin? Can you hear me properly? Sending data. Let's hope they are able to send data this time. Mr. Abhishek Sharma, yes, you're audible. So let's begin. Let's begin. In that case, let's begin. You want to look into the future? You want to have some fun? You want to be informed? You want some analysis? Come on, yaar. Ye kya ho raha hai? Why is this not happening on LinkedIn? God damn it. One second. I guess we'll have to go without LinkedIn, right? But that'll break the spell. That'll break the spell. Anyway, just give me a second, folks. Give me a second. It's already 8:10. We can't wait. But I don't know what's happening here. Confused. I'm confused as much as you are. I don't have any limit left on, so I need to use this restream thing, and restream is not working. So you know what I do, what I have to do for YouTube. I go to OBS, which is an open source free thing, so it gets installed in the system, and then when it gets installed, what you've got to do is just open YouTube and it gets linked and so on and so forth. But OBS cannot do LinkedIn with YouTube. So what you have to do is essentially, use another streamer for LinkedIn. So another streaming service. Now that is StreamYard for me. StreamYard is a streaming service. So what StreamYard does is it helps me go live on LinkedIn, right? Now StreamYard has 20 hours of streaming limit every month. So I can only do 20 hours, but I do more than 20 hours, right? I do something 20, 35, 40 hours. Now I have to do 40 hours, so I have to find another service which is to be free because I'm not paying for this shit, right? So I have to find out something called an alternate service called Restream. Okay. Now Restream essentially offers the same thing and it has no limit, but it's not that great. Okay. So what I have to do with Restream is that I set it up, but it's not that great. So I set OBS up, and then I set Restream up, and then I hope to be live. But sometimes the LinkedIn thing, it really becomes a pain in the ass. Like right now. Right now it is not happening. So I'll just give one final try on LinkedIn using some other stream, and then we will begin. Sorry to keep you waiting, folks. Did you see what happened to Ladakh? Did you see what happened to Ladakh? Right? Very complicated stuff. Extremely sad. Very heartbreaking. Do you think it was an organic protest? Do you think organic protests still happen in this country? Do you think organic Ladakh stop live streaming to record? Seems to have come streaming. But where am I streaming? It's not going anywhere, right? Just one second. I guess we'll have to go without LinkedIn today. Doesn't seem to be working at all. It's been streaming for 5 minutes, not being able to connect with LinkedIn. What kind of a shit process is this? Anyway, let's go, folks. Screw LinkedIn today. Let's begin. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. We deserve it, right? We want to look into the future. We want to analyze without getting paralyzed. So here we go. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, we gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a copper mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Beautiful, right? Let's do it again. Wonderful. Sublime. It's healing. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. That's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. So, we were beginning with Ladakh. What did we talk about as far as protests are considered. We said no protest is organic in this day and age. No protest is organic. So let me say it again. No protest is organic. Do you think it's coincidence that Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, whatever his name is just met, has relationships with Mohammed Yunus, has relationship with United States play, has relationships with, he was recently in Pakistan, and he's been talking about more autonomy from Ladakh and civil protests, and he says, that you should come in masks, and the next day, coincidentally, youth starts getting flared up and people die. Is it a coincidence that people actually have these protests? Well, if you think any protest is organic or coincidental, it's coincidentally turning into a violent play, I've got a bridge to sell you. So, when did protests stop even seeming like organic movements, right? It began with, the first one was Black Lives Matter. Now, BLM, Antifa, and all of these people, when that happened, right, when Trump came into office, and when BLM, not my president, the entire protest essentially ravaged US, everybody started understanding that, whoa, this doesn't seem like an organic thing, right? And when BLM happened there, a lot of protests happened in India. And then a lot of protests happened in Bangladesh. And then a lot of protests happened in Nepal. And a lot of protests happened in a lot of places, which all led to regime change operations, which all turned out to be regime change operations, right? So if you think that these regime change operations are because of a youth awakening, I've got a very nice bridge to sell you. We've created a bridge right over Taj Mahal. So it's a beautiful bridge which goes over Taj Mahal like this. And you can see Taj Mahal, and it's made of glass. So as you walk on that bridge or drive your car, you'll be able to see Taj Mahal's, top view from the bridge downstairs. And all we are doing, we've done this only in $2 million. For just $2 million, you'll be able to have a bridge made right over Taj Mahal, right? And you can bring your Gora friends, and it could be a very good picnic. You can even, so in that bridge, we've even created a place where people can play, people can click pictures, there's a selfie area, and so on and so forth, right? If you think any of these protests are organic, $2 million, and that bridge will be yours. Moving on, IPO fever is gripping in. A lot of companies are going IPO. So first of all, PhonePe is looking at going IPO. It's going at a $15 billion valuation. Grow was going IPO at a $7 to $8 billion valuation. Lenskart was looking at a $10 billion valuation, but now that number seems to be around $9 billion. PhonePe, $15 billion. A lot of pharma companies, right? 15 companies going public. These companies are Indra IVF, of course, Sahajanand Medical Technologies, Nephroplus, Mobilo Diagnostics, Kotek. So fertility is a play which is very active, and a lot of fertility play is leading to a lot of IPOs. So that's happening with pharma. Overall, 13,000 crores. A lot of companies in pharma, especially looking at going IPO. A lot of deals are also happening. In the midst of all these deals, something is happening with Swiggy. So if you've read about Swiggy, you know that it's in trouble, right? Less cash, falling market share. It's just a Rapido investment that didn't work out. Rapido entering in its core business of food delivery. Quick commerce is only going to get heated up with more and more entry players entering the fray, like Amazon, like Flipkart. Big Basket is also not going anywhere, even though its fall is pretty stark, right? So a lot of things are happening. Now Swiggy is going for an inventory-led model. Inventory-led model is basically that you're not treated as a marketplace, so you own the inventory you're selling. Now, even though this requires a lot of working capital, it essentially gives the platform a lot of flexibility to treat its inventory, to turn it around, to basically manage the flow of money, right? So it's higher working capital, but more control. But the problem with Swiggy is that for it to be an inventory led player, it has to have less than 50% domestic, more than 50% domestic shareholding. Unfortunately, Swiggy has 60% foreign shareholding right now. So it'll have to find a way to basically have its overseas investors transfer their shares to an Indian entity in order to turn into a inventory led quick commerce marketplace. Is it gonna happen soon? Is it going to be easy? Now here's why it's gonna be very difficult, because Swiggy's shares are not gonna be as valuable as they are right now. So troubles compound, right? As troubles compound, it's gonna be difficult for the foreign investors to offload. Either it's gonna be they're just gonna write it off that okay, we're just gonna sell, but that won't be a favorable proposition. So even if they win, even if they are able to get their foreign investors to hand it over to some domestic entity there, it's not gonna be priced as well. So Swiggy is in trouble in that way. Restructuring holding, right? That's going on with Swiggy. We discussed something about smartphone manufacturing. You remember? Would that not be a little risky given that it requires a lot more capital and Swiggy is having cash problems? Oh, but that's more or less working capital, Mr. Sharma. Working capital can be raised by debt or something of that sort. It's not a permanent cash sink, right? It's not a permanent burn. Once you have, you're selling stuff anyway, so might as well sell as an inventory thing, right? It's gonna be higher working capital, but once that working capital is sorted, the flow of money becomes easier, right? So it's not gonna be an issue. Debt is not gonna be an issue. It's just that the company is gonna fall in the eyes of investors as a moonshot, right? That's an issue. So we discussed. Do you remember why that we discussed that a company called GTRI Research had published that smartphone shipments had fallen in August, right? We had talked about how smartphone shipments had fallen in August and how it was very surprising how that was happening, because if smartphone exports were going down, Indian smartphone exports, where do we go? Because smartphone exports are extremely important for the country, as we all know, right? And smartphone exports are outside the tariff game, so they've not been affected tariffs. So why did smartphone exports go down in August by a lot, right? The answer is that the government has come out, the regulatory body has come out, ICAI. They've come out with a report saying that hey, you guys, you don't know shit. Actually, August is the month when new smartphones which are gonna get launched are planned for production. Okay, so when they are planned for production, the old smartphones are not really exported. This is the time when the product life cycle gets an upgrade. So August is a period when the new launches coming out in September or October, they are supposed to be planned. So that's basically a month long uh, sort of reset period for exports. So the body said that even in that reset period, the shipments have been up 39%. However, because it's a reset period, you cannot expect any good thing happening in that month. So I'll just uh, you know tell you the data points. ICAEA, that is Indian Cellular Electronics Association, which represents Apple and everybody else, they say first of all, year on year, if you judge year on year, it's still going up 40%. Secondly, it says that slowing exports, historically mobile phone exports slow in August and first half of September, uh, according to 5-year data. Period coincides with new model introductions from companies. Global customers awaiting the launch of new models sharply reduce their purchase of smartphone during August. This results in drop in exports. Now, also sees August and early September also sees large scale retrofitting of plant and machinery to prepare for new model that slashes out output, in turn exports. So that's exactly what's happening. Very interesting. I did not know that. Yes. So this is 5 years. So they said it's 5 years, the data, and all these 5 years, August has a dip in exports, which is fascinating, right? It's good to know these things. So next time, next August, you will know when to, let's say if one of the Indian exporters, let's say Dixon, right? Dixon essentially went public, right? So the way to use this, I'm not saying you need to use this as a trick for investing, but seasonality is a very important play. So what you do is, when the August play comes out, right? Before that, you essentially sell your holdings, because when the August numbers come out, you'll be basically seeing the stock decline, right? News, but then you pick it up right after this particular period gets over, right? After August, essentially, uh, the new numbers come in and so on and so forth. And then, so there are ways to ride the wave, right? But only if you know when the wave is gonna strike. So that is a way to deal with this situation. Quest Global is selling 6% at 3.5 billion valuation. It's a tech company. And speaking of tech, a lot of action was happening as far as the H1B visas were considered, right? That it's gonna become difficult for Indians to go to US and stuff. Germany, Canada, UK, and everybody, they've started positioning themselves as people who could use Indian labor, Indian talent, tech talent, and people disgruntled with the whole H1B system could come to Canada, could come to Germany, could come to UK, and so on and so forth, right? Uh, Mr. Rajakumar says, office made us practice Garba. Finally, here for my favorite show. Mr. Kumar, good morning. So, yeah, what I was saying was that Canada says that if we could just import these people, we could add 1% to our GDP, right? So that's fascinating. They say that if we could get these people online to our country, the increment in our GDP could essentially be about 1%. So that's interesting. Some numbers here. Build Canada Policy Forum believes if Canada could attract 120,000 of US H1B workers earning Canadian $200,000, it could add 30 billion in total economic activity, a 1% GDP boost. So they 120,000 techies go to Canada, 200 Canadian dollars, thousand. That's about $100,000, right? You go away, and those people add like $30 billion to the Canadian GDP, which is 1%. So interesting. As I said, Indians were not gonna come back. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And exactly what happened? Exactly what I told. I feel like an African lady in hindsight, right? Indians are not gonna come back, man. Whoever goes, they go. Moving on. Maritime sector gets nearly 70,000 crore schemes. Mr. Barun Sharma says, now just wait for this show every morning. So sweet of you, Mr. Sharma. 70,000 crores. So 70,000 crores is a lot of money. 25,000 crore is the Maritime Development Fund, right? Dedicated fund. And so Mr. PM has said that from chips to ships, India needs to work it out. And he says especially that the biggest scenario is that shipbuilding is the mother of heavy engineering. So once again, shipbuilding is the mother of heavy engineering. And what did I tell you? Right, this is exactly what I told you, because shipbuilding and defense, these industries have a lot of downstream effects, like second order effects, third order effects, and so on and so forth. And if you indigenize this kind of production, if you gain the intelligence of having this production sorted, right, you become a very strong engineering player. Now with US, what happened was US was a great shipbuilding power, but with everything, right, they just abandoned their shipbuilding industry. China took it over, of course, and then everything got screwed because of that, right? Now America is talking about making American shipbuilding great again, and so is India. So the package is seen promoting local capacity, improving financing, and enhancing ship technology research. Ship technology, a frontier tech, it leads to a lot of downstream effects. It's just amazing. Whatever happens, it's amazing. So this is also in continuation. It's a developing story, as we always talk about. not seeing history as a set of museum pieces. You got to see history as a process. This is another step in the direction of leading to more shipbuilding. First was having shipbuilders or shipbuilding getting the infrastructure status. Why the infrastructure status? To have better financing ability, better capital allocation, and so on and so forth, right? So that's going on. Some reports are coming on for GST. We've talked about GST a lot. So some reports say that 11.3 lakh crore worth e-payments were made on day one. That's 10x. Stay over 11 lakh crore on second day too. This is huge. This is huge, right? Reserve Bank of India showed total value of transactions across electronic payments platforms soared to 11.3 lakh crore, a nearly tenfold surge from the previous day. So transactions did go 10x, right? But does transaction prove to be a good proxy for actual consumption? Well, sure, of course, of course. But then why did this data not show up in automotive purchases or the heavy electronics purchases or FMCG purchases or apparel purchases? Where did this transaction happen? So this is an interesting developing story. If this is, and also you've got to see how much of it was 2024, 2025, right? So how much did it actually grow as far as this transaction is considered? Maybe this transaction always grows 10x during the first day of Navratra, right? So you've got to judge it very, very intelligently. But good news, the government needs to push good news in this direction, right? A lot of the business community needs to push good news because good news gets more good news, right? Bad news gets more bad news. It's just an upward spiral or it's in downward spiral. Things rarely stay static, right? Moving on. Electrolyzer PLI companies seek to defer launch by a year. Demand for specialized equipment required in green projects yet to pick up. So 8 companies were selected for electrolyzer PLI, the production linked incentive scheme. Now, those companies have said that we got to defer a launch because some specialized equipment, right, needs to be procured. Tranche of production linked incentive are likely to defer commissioning of the units to 2027 against the 2026. Reasons: lack of demand. Electrolyzer is a specialized equipment for producing green hydrogen, but its demand is yet to pick up due to slow progress of tenders of electrolyzer based projects. So they are saying that you've got to defer it, right? Because this equipment is not getting bought as much, right? And the demand needs to pick up for the PLI to happen because PLI is just one part of the story, right? So let's say, how does PLI work? If people want to know, how does PLI work, right? Let's say if you want to manufacture time machines, okay? So you say that time machines are to be manufactured, but you've got to incentivize people to manufacture time machines, right? So the government says, oh, time machines are made in China. We need to make time machines in India. What do? We need to make we need to incentivize these players. So we give them a production linked incentive. For every time machine that you make, we are going to give like 30% of the production cost or 30% of the revenue, right? So the 30% of revenue comes from the government. But if there is no demand for the time machine, right, the PLI cannot single-handedly move the industry. That's what happens with EVs. That's what happens with solar. That's what happens with chip. If there is no demand for the chip or the EV or the phone, right, the PLI alone cannot save the industry. So, uh, you know, that's also what's happening, by the way, at solar situation. Not the demand, but the PLI deferment. Moving on from this particular play. Airbus is doing a board. Group's directors will meet in the country for the first time. This is great news for the country. Airbus did a meet in China in 2018 and now it's meeting in India. The board, this basically is a signal that, oh, India is an important country. India is obviously a very, very big customer for Airbus, and I like Airbus. I like Airbus more than Air India. Oh, sorry. Boeing. What was I saying? Apart from the industrial use, as of now, hydrogen does not seem to have many applications. Green hydrogen, Mr. Sharma, is a very, very good alternate fuel for cars, for automotive sector. So they are basically trying to push green hydrogen as a fuel. The problem is the cost of making green hydrogen essentially uh, proves to be a hurdle, because you end up spending more money to make green hydrogen than the money it's gonna fetch when it's out, right? So that's something that these people are figuring out. Speaking of green fuels, Mr. Gadkari has said that this is BS. Everything is BS in this world, this life, this universe. All you need to do is go heavy on biogas, biofuels, ethanol, and so on. He says 60% of nation's population is engaged in agriculture, but agriculture only contributes 14%. According to him, 14%, actual number is 19% to the Indian GDP. So a lot of people, but very less contribution to Indian GDP. And the way to boost that particular contribution to Indian GDP is by allowing farmers to make ethanol and incentivizing ethanol and alternative fuels and biogas and so on and so forth, biofuels. Because if these things pick up, first of all, we're not going to be importing a lot of fuel from outside. And if we are not importing a lot of fuel from outside and farmers essentially get a new way to make money, it's going to be a win-win. So he's going heavy. And also, speaking of energy import, India is trying to warm up to US and is saying that we can import a lot of energy from US. Now, this is exactly what Trump wanted. Trump wanted some good news for its energy supplies, right? So United States has the world's largest reservoir, or let's say store of crude. It's bigger than Middle East, by the way. Right? And Trump says that we should produce and we should essentially export. People should buy US energy. And India says, hey, we could buy your energy, right? If you want. So that's a way to warm up the relationship with United States. Speaking of United States, a linked story is that Mr. Jeremy Powell is eating dust. Why? Because people asked him that how has tariff impacted the consumer prices, right? Everybody in this world, every economist in this world predicted that tariffs are going to lead to more inflation. Tariffs are going to make things costly in US, and when they make things costly in US is going to suffer, people are going to suffer, and so on and so on and so on. And what did we tell you? You remember what we told you? What I told you as far as tariff situation is considered? I said they're all wrong. They're all wrong. Why are they all wrong? Because there's something called price inelasticity, right? You cannot raise the price. There's price responsiveness. You cannot raise a price, because after you raise a price to beyond an extent, consumers stop buying that product, right? And when consumers stop buying that product, the producers, the retailers, the wholesalers, the distributors, the logistics guys, everybody, all of those people have to align themselves according to the consumer's price range. This is the price range beyond which the product just stops moving, right? And when that product stops moving, who takes the hit of the tariff? It's not the consumer. It's the supplier. It's the trade guy. It's the retailer. It's the wholesaler. It's the importer. It's the producer. So you see Honda, you see all the car companies, Toyota, their sales grew up, right? But their profits went down, because they knew that if tariffs have been applied to us and we just raise the price, we're not going to sell at all. And then whoever comes without that, whoever doesn't have that tariff play is going to sell, and it's going to sell all of that, right? So that's how the world economy works. Now, this should be economics 101, right? This should be economics 101. That, hey, if you raise tariffs, it's not like everything is going to get expensive in America, right? People will be paying higher prices. This was the argument, the core argument against Trump, right? but they were all wrong. And we told you that they're all going to be wrong because of something that they missed in the equation, which is called price inelasticity. Or is it elasticity? Basically, price responsiveness is the word I use to not get confused between price inelasticity or elasticity. I always get confused. The thing is, if you raise the price, how many people are still going to buy the product, right? What is the margin that you have or the leverage that you have to raise the price? There is no leverage like that, right? So Trump is right, and he says that most of Powell says that whatever tariffs have done, most of that has essentially gone to retailers, the shocks, the wholesalers, the suppliers, the manufacturers, the importers. Consumers have not really been paying for all those problems as of now. So US inflation has been in control. It was 2.1, 2.8, now 2.6 something. Very much in control, right? So everybody was wrong. Trump was right, and then we were right. Moving on. So whenever somebody says a big argument for these people was, now this is a very good way to look at history and to understand the future. Whenever somebody says, but experts say that, but economists say that, hey, you don't know economics, you don't know science, right? If somebody says you don't know science or you don't know a particular XYZ, right? When they come with a position of authority, then they come with they're not battling ideas, so they're not talking ideas. When they come to the defense that, hey, you don't know this particular aspect of this is why you're wrong, just know that those people are bullshitting, right? Just know. So whenever somebody says that, oh, this is how science works, so you don't know science, right? Just know that that person is full of shit. Moving on. A lot of sad news coming from the Indian political play. Man, I just hope we find a way. Moving on. A lot of conversations happening as far as Satcom spectrum pricing, right? Telcos were worried, Reliance Jio was worried that the Satcom pricing, the spectrum pricing is gonna hurt everything, right? But Department of Telecom says it's not gonna, because it's gonna have a very limited impact on anything as far as the market share is considered. Right now, broadband has some penetration, everybody has some, so a few numbers they say. The department will be asking try to reconsider the proposal. The Satcom service providers can have around 2 to 3% market share in the fixed wired broadband market in near to midterm basis capacity, right? Now, they also say that, this particular price could be an issue for the telco players, and they say it's not going to be, and we're going to revise it later. So this has been an ongoing conflict with the telcos and with the Satcom players, because Satcom is going to grow exponentially. Satcom doesn't have a limiting factor, right? Satcom is an industry which is going to grow 10x in the next 2 years, right? So telcos are obviously scared that if this becomes mainstream. So right now, the point is that a Satcom terminal, let's say a Starlink terminal, is expensive, right? But it's not going to be expensive forever. Its price is going to fall down like this. When its price keeps falling like this, its adoption will go like this. If its adoption goes like this, obviously telcos are going to get screwed up. And telcos are a very, very difficult, extremely regulated, ultra hard play, right? And they don't want to get screwed like that. So that's their essentially perspective on things, right? They say that we pay so much of money on AGR, and these people are not even paying any spectrum fee. They're just getting license. So that's not cool. In the near term, Satcom providers to have 1.2 million fixed broadband users. So right now what the government has done is it's fixed the cap, right? In future, there'll be safeguards in place. Telcos have over 44 million broadband subscribers. Mr. Aman Killa asks, what's the difference between Satcom and normal telecom? Would you know? So Satcom is basically satellites, LEO and GEO. LEO is low Earth orbit. GEO is, geostationary. uh, satellites. So you basically get signal from the satellites. That's satellite communication, right? When telcos is more of a tower play. So essentially, towers are relaying the signals and so on and so forth, right? Uh, so I hope, Mr. Killa, that's so. What happens with, if you're asking about regulations? So telco players need to have the spectrum. Spectrum is considered a national property. Now, national property is to be bought. So 6G, 5G, 4G, 2G, all of these spectrums are to be auctioned and sold, right? And they are bought by these telco companies, telecom operators. So when they are bought by telecom operators, it's very high. The cost is very high. I guess it's some 8% of AGR. AGR is adjusted gross revenue, right? So it's a lot of money that these people have to pay to get access to this particular spectrum, right? Now, regulator had recommended charging 4% of adjusted gross revenue without any upfront fee. So that was for the SATCOM players. So what happens is that telcos are obviously against it because they've bought and paid for it, and Satcom gets like a it just comes from the sky, literally. So I hope that is okay. Mr. Piyush Sethi says, newly added to the community, was watching recordings past week and finally joined the live session today. Love it. Beautiful. Beautiful, Mr. Piyush Sethi. I hope there's nothing as good as live. Live is the best. Live is a real conversation. You can ask questions. Recordings. I write an article, it gets lakhs of views. It's not as much fun as doing this session with just 20 people. Right now 15 because there's nobody on LinkedIn. So the impact is better network coverage. Of course. So Mr. Killa, Satcom can go anywhere, right? Anywhere. Let's say there are no towers in a particular mountain region, right? There's some uncovered area. There's Antarctica. There's Arctic Circle. There's some very godforsaken area where there's no tower, no connection, right? Satcom will run there because the signal is coming from the sky, right? So that's the play. So that's what these people are saying. So Satcoms, how they entered the country is that they're going to go the underserved market. They're going to go where nothing exists right now, right? The telecom play is weak. But they say that this is extraterrestrial part. When they come to the urban areas and when they come to the normal terrains, it's going to lead to lost business for us. And they say, don't worry, it's not going to happen. But it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. Moving on. Okay. London is facing an exodus of rich people leaving. City status as a global wealth hub weekend after UK tax charges triggered high profile departures amongst its super rich residents. So London is going through a real crisis. London is not contributing to the GDP, American GDP, and it's falling. And a lot of people are losing jobs in London. So it's a big problem. And as the tax changes happened, the rich have started moving away. And whenever you think about taxing the rich, you think it's a good idea because you tax the rich, and the tax is going to lead to more wealth distribution to the poor. But what people don't figure in their equation is that the rich can leave. So if you say that you're going to tax the rich, what if the rich just leave? If rich just leave, they take all the money with them. And when they take all the money with them, where does the money come from for distribution? So that's exactly what's happening with London right now, right? At least fifth of the world's 500 richest people now have a family office, helping to preserve fortunes more than 4 trillion, right? Those with London firms managing their wealth include Lakshmi Mittal, James Dyson, Maria Angela Colossus, and so on and so forth. Now these people are looking at moving out. Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar says, India is a price conscious and Satcom is expensive. That's what I said. Satcom is not going to be expensive forever. Its price is going to fall off the cliff like this. Mark my words if you look into the future. Moving on. Reliance has trimmed its stake in Balaji Telefilms. now holds 20%, had invested 413 crore in 2017 for nearly 25% through a preferential issue as a part of the content play, and now they're selling Balaji Telefilms. Moving on, their stake, they're selling their stake in Balaji Telefilms. Moving on. Adani Group has come out with a boastful and not boastful but inspiring statement. They say we're going to focus on nation building and innovation. They say what was supposed to attack us has only made us stronger. We are better than ever, and we are going to kill. This is in reference to the Hindenburg allegations, of course. When Hindenburg allegation happened, I had written an article at that time saying that Hindenburg has actually saved Adani Group. And that is exactly what has happened. So Hindenburg came at a time when Adani's debt was looming. It was a huge debt kind of a situation, and the group wasn't stopping at all. It wasn't slowing down. It was just flying too close to the sun, like Icarus, right? And this particular play was becoming riskier day by day. And these people had their own spiel, right? So they weren't looking at pausing at all. What happened then was its debt servicing became an issue or became a concern for investors, and people started noticing that, hey, this group is especially risky right now, the way they are accumulating debt. And then Hindenburg happened, and then one of the major fundraise was going to happen. Hindenburg happened, and then the group was forced to actually recalibrate its approach, prepay some of the debt, make sure that the debt ratios are nice, right? It was supposed to take a lot of debt, more debt, but it didn't because of the Hindenburg thing, right? So if Hindenburg didn't happen, they would have accumulated more debt and maybe gone to a place where it could have become unsustainable, right? And that didn't happen. So blessing in disguise. Moving on. JSW has acquired ExxonMobil, looking at 7,000 crore NCDs. We've talked about that, so we won't talk about it again unless somebody asks. Moving on. Monsoon has withdrawn from Punjab and Haryana. You know what this means? What does this mean? What does monsoon withdrawing from Punjab and Haryana mean? Can you guess a few things? It's gonna have two basic ramifications. Number one is people gonna be out in the market, right? When they are out in the market, they're gonna buy more. That's like the first. When monsoon withdraws, the next phase of agricultural cycle is essentially planned, so that also happens. So consumption economy starts getting boosted as monsoon withdraws. Monsoon delay in withdrawal leads to problems, right, for the consumption play. So that's very good news for the economy. We've talked about this particular play, right? Shipbuilding, 25,000 Maritime Development Fund. Shipbuilding financial assistance of 24,000 crores. Shipbuilding development 19,000 crores. So they are looking at a 30% minimum value addition. So that's how smartphone manufacturing also began in the country. You remember? So Ashwini Vaishnav sir says that right now India is at 20% of value addition, right? It's gonna be at 30% value addition in 2030, and it's gonna be a 38% value addition for smartphones I'm talking about in 2035, and 38% is the value addition by China. So we're gonna be equal to China when it comes to value addition in the smartphone manufacturing play. So they've begun the maritime play with a 30% minimum value addition as far as the whole manufacturing play is considered. This is how things start, right? Now somebody might say, oh, we don't need to do this, we could focus on something else. They should be investigated. You know who I'm referring to, right? You know who I'm referring to when I say that India is better off without manufacturing? Do you remember? We've talked a lot about this. Somebody, a very, very big figure, said that India shouldn't invest in semiconductor manufacturing, the 10 billion, because it's a bad idea and India should focus on being a service economy. Somebody said this, and I said that is not only wrong, absolutely wrong. It's stupid, and it's not stupid, actually, it's sinister. So that person should be investigated. right? It was RR. I do what I do, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Mr. Sharma, Barun Sharma says it was RR. Mr. Sethi says Rajan. Yeah. So he literally came out and said that it's better to give that money to universities so that they can do research. And then nobody asked him at that time, so what do you mean by that? Right? Do research and then do what? Because there's no company that can absorb that research talent. So these people are gonna do research and then they're gonna go to US just like you, and they're gonna work there and make money there at subsidized education in India. Is that what you want? Right? Because without any talent to absorb, what do you do with the talent? Right? What do you do with research without any industry to absorb it? And he had no real answer to that. So imagine like the RBI governor, IIT Delhi, MIT, some World Bank level guy coming up with a suggestion which is purely and unequivocally dumb, right? Is it purposeful, or is he really dumb? Now it's very hard to say that a person like that can indeed be stupid, right? It's just very unlikely that a person like that with that pedigree, that education, that exposure, right, that resources, set of resources can be actually dumb. So what is it then? What is it, right? Very good question, pertinent questions. Moving on. uh, there's some cases happening. X had filed cases against Center Sahyog Portal. Sahyog Portal was essentially talking about safety issues for social networking and how the platform needs to act at government's behest on making sure that some content or some content creator gets denied the access if there is something wrong as far as national security or whatever is considered. So X went and filed a case against them. Karnataka High Court has rejected their plea against the portal. Portal used to issue content takedown orders against social media platforms. So social media platforms are essentially uh, everything right now, right? Because they define what the country thinks, they define what the country sees, they define how the country behaves essentially. So speaking of social networking platforms, the chief of YouTube has come out in the open saying that we had blogged million accounts, uh, or million videos, was it videos or accounts, regarding COVID information at the behest of Biden administration. So they had literally blocked accounts of people who were making videos about their story or about alternate medicine or alternate treatments of COVID or alternate protections or whatever. They've admitted it, and they said that we actually worked with Biden administration and silenced those people, and we're gonna bring those people back right now. That's what YouTube has admitted, right? Twitter files, which came out after Mr. Musk acquired Twitter, they essentially said the same thing, that uh, Twitter was basically an arm of the CIA, right? Now, if Twitter was the arm of CIA and is not anymore, how likely is that Meta is still the arm of the CIA, as it was, as it clearly was, right? How likely is it that YouTube was still the arm of CIA? If YouTube, Meta are the arms of CIA, what is the likelihood that all the protests that you saw in Bangladesh, so-called student protests, and all the protests that you saw on Nepal, and all the protests that you see in India, right? They're all inflamed artificially by these digital platforms, right? What is the likelihood of that? If they could censor some contrary medical opinion, right? They actually censored like legitimate doctors. How likely or unlikely is it that they could do that, or they do that still for political reasons? It's 100%. It's 100%. It's not quite likely as Mr. Sharma says it. He's very polite. It's 100% that they actually affect the discourse, the political discourse that happens. So that totally sucks, and that is something to be very carefully observed, right? Because this is the problem. India does not have any play there. Moving on. Allow local sales from export units. Gem companies are asking finance ministry. They're saying that you've got to allow us to actually sell to the local market. So they created SEZs, special economic zones, which were basically designed for export. Now, gem and jewelry companies went to those SEZs, but then US tariff happened. US tariff basically put the entire 10 billion exports, gem and jewelry exports to US in jeopardy. Now, since that jeopardy, there has to be some way people can make up for it, right? So the gem companies are saying that you've got to allow us to sell in India. Now, it's not that easy because there's a lot of norms. Ideally, conceptually, it should be very easy, right? No matter the SEZ, I mean, if something has happened as far as the export market is considered, it's government's responsibility to provide the domestic market for that particular produce, right? But bureaucracy and status quo and processes, they are hard to, they don't have a lot of wiggle room. So that's what's going on. They say the ministry said what industry is asking for is a 3-month duty exemption window to sell in the domestic market to tap festival season, but there are technical challenges related to that. So there are a lot of technical challenges, right? Speaking of defense, technical challenges in defense are go hand in hand. L&T BEL are they've tied up to bid for the fighter jet contract. So you know about the 60,000 crore fighter jet contract. India wants to have its own 5th generation fighter jet. 60,000 crore is just the pilot fee, and then it's going to be lakhs of crores. So companies have been allowed to bid together as a consortium. L&T BEL have bid together. Then Tata can find partners and bid together. Tata Advanced Systems Limited. HAL, the biggest, has not yet partnered with anybody, but it likely will. So let's see what happens there. This space is heating up. I had said that it would have been nice for the government to actually not focus on the 5th generation plane, right? Just not focus on it at all. Why? It could just start, divert all that energy to drones, because drones are the future of war. Drones are actually the present of war. Fighter jets are an outdated technology, and there is no use of actually investing your intelligence, capital, and time and resources to make fighter jets because they are obsolete anyway, right? So India could have its own smartphone moment as far as this war tech is considered. So India clearly missed out on the fighter jet paradigm, right? We couldn't make anything. We sanctioned Tejas back in 1976 or something. It got inducted in 2016-18 or whatever, a few years ago. So we clearly lost that paradigm, but we don't need to follow that game anymore. Why? Because we could just make drones, right? Drones are nuclear power without limiting factor. You can just keep improving drones. You can just make them more effective, make them more efficient, make them more lethal, make them cheaper, make them anything, right? And drones are like the future, literally the future. Right now, the Ukraine-Russian war is essentially an all-drone war, right? So why invest a lot of money into fighter jets? So what happened with India and smartphones were that India couldn't really, even though computers got nice penetration in the country, right? But a lot of the country couldn't be introduced to a computer as a technology, right? But then came smartphone, and smartphone introduced computing to entire nation, right? The people who missed on the computing revolution, they didn't go first to a computer and then to a smartphone. They got introduced to computing through smartphone. Something similar could happen with India, but I think Rajnath Singh sir is not watching Thinker's Frequency. Right? Moving on. Solar PLI is gonna to have a 2 year extension, not deferment, extension. Little progress on farm and auto. India EU FTA free trade agreement. It's gonna have another meeting. 13th round didn't yield any results as far as India and EU. So India has already signed an FTA with Britain, UK, right? It's gonna sign an FTA with EU, and the contention is the cars and farm equipment. So let's see what happens there. Gold has risen again. Gold has risen again. Gold is high, silver is high. Silver imports have been restricted until March 26, right? Gold, now this is exactly what we predicted. We said gold is gonna pick up. As gold is gonna pick up, because whatever happens with the American market, the job data, whatever, the rate cuts and everything, gold is rising. And as gold rises, stocking up of gold by central banks around the world is happening. So everybody's basically hedging their dollar risk, because the world sees de-dollarization happening sometime, and you got to be prepared for something like that, right? So even people are very smart, they're stocking gold. Indian households, by the way, have more gold than the top 10 reserve banks of the world combined. So Indian ladies are smarter than all the reserve banks of the world. Top 10 reserve banks don't hold as much gold as Indian households do. Did you know that? We've talked about this, so you must know already. Moving on. HSBC has raised India's equities to overweight. They say, from neutral to overweight. That's an upgrade. It's going to lead to good things. Dalal Street yet to get over H1B shock, but dip an opportunity to buy. Yeah, sure. No problem. Moving on. Biofuel push fuels TrueAlt, but policy shift can be a risk. So TrueAlt is a company which is going IPO, right? And they're talking about how policy shift can be a risk to biofuel. Do you think policy shift will happen against a company like TrueAlt? I don't think so. As long as this government is in power, they're going to do their best to essentially raise the biofuel game of the country, right? And that is very, very necessary. Moving on. Bonds languish as market awaits borrowing plan MPC review. So bond traders are taking a rest because they want to see how the government borrows. If the government borrowing numbers change or get up or get down, it's going to affect the bond prices. If the government increases its borrowing, right, how's the bond price going to come down? Is it going to... Bonds are essentially gonna be pricier. If the government essentially increases its borrowing, bonds are gonna be pricier. If bonds are gonna be pricier, their yields are gonna decline. And if their yields are gonna decline, these people have to essentially position themselves in that sort of ways. So bond traders are refraining from taking aggressive positions as they await the details on Centre's H2 borrowing calendar, and which is going to be published on Friday, and the monetary policy review. So 10-year bonds are steady at 6.47 to 6.51, and share of long bonds likely to drop to 30 to 32% in H2. So that's what's happening. These people are scared. We expect RBI to put in a delta in 5-year, 7-year, 15-year buckets, even though the 15-year is not FAR, fully accessible route. So we've talked a lot about how these bonds work. Unless somebody wants an explanation, we can quickly move on. I just hope I'm not missing out on anything. PhonePe is filing an IPO while its market share is going down. So Google and PhonePe's market share is slightly contracting, falls to 80% from 85%, year on year. Bheem, Navi, and Super Money are raising their UPI play, which should be worrying to anybody who's looking at PhonePe's IPO, because PhonePe has yet not made money. Right? Even at a 7,000 crore revenue stage, it made a loss of 1,700 crores. And PhonePe is not a new company; it's a pretty old company. The company has essentially ventured in a lot of areas like insurance and lending, and it recently got the payment aggregator license as well, right? So it's going to be competing with Razorpay and everybody else. It's still not a money making operation, right? And generally, what companies do is before they're filing their papers, they brush up their books and so show some profits, right? But PhonePe hasn't been able to do that still. So eventually, they're gonna make money. But if something bad happens in the market, right? Like you remember Paytm? Paytm was a company. It used to hold a lot of digital transaction share, right? And then PhonePe came. The Paytm used to hold the wallet business. PhonePe came with UPI. UPI government came with UPI. PhonePe came and took the UPI, and PhonePe's tech stack became history. Now, while that kind of like systemic risk doesn't exist with PhonePe, it's essentially not like a clear sell, right? So, especially when it comes to these things. Bheem, Navi, and Supermoney raise their share 50 to 100% as GPay and PhonePe slips. NPCI data shows smaller players growing their transaction base, right? And so on. So, we've talked about that enough. I believe I'm missing out a very important RBI move, right? Which I don't hope I miss out by the end of it. Tata Electronic pings chip gear vendors for ecosystem build out. So this is exactly what happens when you set up a manufacturing facility. Everything, grows up. What happens? Like, let's say you're setting up a factory, a toy factory. You've got to have colors. You've got to have wood, you've got to have some plastic, you got to have some packaging, you've got to have a lot of things, which leads to a lot of second and third order effects, right? So Tata has a fab in Dholera, and then an OSAT in Assam. Fab is a fabrication plant, OSAT is uh, assembly and testing, right? Outsourced assembly and testing. So for that, it needs a lot of people who can supply it with very fine materials. So it recently tied up with Merck. Merck is the pharmaceutical company now. Merck for chemicals, like ultra refined, extraordinary chemicals. Now it needs ASML. ASML makes a world sole supplier of extreme ultraviolet photolithography machines. So this is obviously high end stuff. It has already tied up with Tokyo Electron, right? So a lot of these things are going to tie up. A lot of people are going to come. They're going to start making chips in India. A lot of jobs are going to happen. Some people who get employed in these companies are going to start their own businesses. Those businesses are going to employ people, and so on and so forth. The world runs on second order and third order effect. The way to understand everything is to not just look at one thing in a silo, just to see what it's going to lead to, and then what that's going to lead to, and when that's going to lead to. The second order, third order effects are what define everything. So it's going to be very, very good for the country. Moving on. Microsoft is using microfluidics to cool AI chips. Microsoft was the earlier dipping the whole storage servers in water to essentially cool them. They were using C, but now they're experimenting with microfluidics. Yes, they got to do something, right? So much of money lying around. What do? You're gonna play with water, right? Moving on. A lot of actions happening. China, US. US has come out and said Ukraine can actually win the war, and it can reclaim all its territory, and not just reclaim its territory. Ukraine can actually get some Russian territory as well. This is the first time Trump has said that Ukraine will not just get its own territory back, but it's also going to get Russian territory. And Russia is a paper tiger. He says that Russia has been fighting a war for 3.5 years when a real military would have ended it in 2 weeks. Is that kind of provocation, or is that kind of, uh, let's say, statement a wise thing to do with Russia? Or does Trump know something we don't? Is Russia essentially getting weaker because Russian exports have sort of trembled. Their refineries are in trouble. Ukrainian drones. There's nothing Ukraine. Ukraine is just a proxy of NATO and Europe and America. So their drones are actually killing it, right? They've hurt a lot of refineries of Russia. Do these people know something that we don't? Right? That is a very good question. And that's always a question that we must ask ourselves. That do these people know something that we don't? Right? Uh, Speaking of the last story is RBI's efforts on rupee down. RBI has not been affecting the rupees. A lot of things are happening. RBI is essentially going to buy some dollars in order to strengthen the rupee. The REER rate, which is rupee's strength amongst other countries, it's 95, which is strong. But rupee has been declining, and a lot of people have been saying that RBI has led or allowed rupee to decline for export competitiveness. Why? Because inflation isn't a problem in India yet. So even though India is an import dependent economy, it's not really affected anything in India. And that should be very interesting. Till when is this going to work out, right? Maybe when the tariffs are off. When the tariffs are off, you're going to see rupee rise, right? But when will the tariffs be off is a very good question. I hope Russia doesn't have to lose the war for the tariff to go off, because Russia is effectively India's only true all-weather ally and a very, very big partner, defense partner especially. So let's see what happens. Very interesting times, complicated times. But this brings us to the end of the 123rd episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:18. We should punch in anytime soon. I'm sorry for the delay due to the whole LinkedIn operation. Should we just not go live on LinkedIn at all? Should we just go on YouTube, bring people here, right? Instead of going live on LinkedIn, it doesn't yield anything anyway, right? So what's the point, right? Anyway, thank you so much to Mr. Amrit Raj, Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Mr. Raju Kumar. Congratulations on your Garba. Mr. Barun Sharma, Mr. Aman Killa, Mr. Ashutosh Bhandekar, Mr. Piyush Sethi, and everybody else, right? So I wish you a beautiful day, personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. I hope you had fun. I hope you added a lot of value. It definitely, I had a lot of fun. It added a lot of value to me. So have a nice day. Maybe posting this info on LinkedIn that we are live on YouTube will help. Okay, but then we're gonna have every day a post that we are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. But that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's better than posting a video, right, on LinkedIn every day. We'll think about it. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.